It's my pleasure to introduce Josie to you as our feature poet, the first of the new year at Prickly Pear. So, Josie Adam is a disabled poet who has made a home in County Durham. In her early life, she focused on STEM subjects and only wrote the occasional poem, but in recent years has drifted more and more into the worlds of art and history, writing, sewing, recreating, and studying how society's history informs the present. An encounter with another poet reading her work and saying, "Mate, you're a poet," gave her the nudge to study writing poetry more actively. And she's been creating work and performing it at open mic nights since February 2024. Most recently, her work has been published in the Nottingham Poetry Festival Collection 2024, and she has a poetry mascot named Plorn, whose main qualities are his orbulence, he's joining Josie tonight, as you can see, and his lack of grooves. The jury is still out on what sort of creature he is meant to be. We are delighted that Josie is our feature poet for the first Prickly Pear of 2025. I think you're going to love what you hear. Over to you, Josie.
Thank you very much. So, hi, I'm Josie. The first half of my set tonight is about my experiences volunteering in a British prison. So, has a content warning for treatment of prisoners in British prisons, including mismanagement of medical care. I'm going to then go on to some more personal pieces, starting with one which reflects the experience of having an anxiety attack. I will give further content warnings as we go on the rest of them. This is at HMP. Key in, turned a quarter, latch turned, haul it open. The screech and the creak of the hinge, take out the key, turn it back first. Other side, key back in, pass through, haul it closed, the clang and the crash. Key turned again, latch turned, key turned back, take it out. The crash of the gates clanging shut, can't make it quiet however hard you try. And there are so many, so often you forget to try. Each key turn a clunk, a reminder of walls, gates, steel. 6 inches further down the hall, another gate. Yes, really, that close. They pair them. Do it again, again, and again, and again. From the first to your destination, you lose count. 20, 50. Arms exhausted, hands aching from the weight. The wire fences clatter, rattle, vibrating 100 yards of fencing. The concrete walls echo the boom of the gates. The concrete corridors curve away to infinity. The echo, God's the echo, every shouted conversation in a 5-story hall assaulting your ears, bouncing off the white-painted walls, an unceasing wall of sound. When the men are out, not out of their cells, that is, not outside in the open air, out in the concrete corridors, getting their lunch. Such flimsy trays, plastic cutlery, flimsy slices of cheapest bread. It's almost like a youth hostel. Folks in sweatshirts chatting, laughing with mates, but for the logo on their chests that marks out where they are. The officers, in black, bulked out by stab vests, always on guard, heads on a swivel, radio at hand, cuffs on belt, pepper spray, always ready. The clang of the gates is constant. The holler of the men from cell to cell, banging on their steel doors, venting frustration, to piss off the guards, just to get past the time. The clang of the gates is constant. You try to make out words, understand what's being said, hear a call of miss from among the clamour. Where did it come from? Look up, look down, everywhere a steel door, behind each 2 men. You pass them by and they're gone from your world. Whose voice called miss? Is it you they call? You look at the officers. Any women on today? Do they call for you? If you're lucky, they can see you still. You haven't passed their eye line, vanished from their world, before in desperation they catch your ear. Miss behind you! Miss up on 2s. Luckiest, a cell number. Miss 216. Talk to him through the steel door, tiny window with a harsh steel flap, 'cause the doors are locked tight shut, can't be opened without a code red. Trying to ask through the boom and the crash, the endless clanging of man on metal, can hardly even hear a shouted word. What do you need? How can I help? Miss, I can't call my daughter. Miss, I can't get my meds. Miss, I'm not supposed to be here. Miss, I'm wrong in my head. However much you train, listening, learning, nothing prepares you for, Miss, they're gonna hurt me. If I tell you, they'll hurt you too. Often under the influence, though you never know what, spice or withdrawal or moonshine or master, often they're very, very ill. Now and then, though, they are absolutely right. Miss, they're gonna hurt me. If I tell you, they'll hurt you too. For a man to be granted one treasured space in the ISU, the only building place in this building that mental health support means anything at all, he has to be one of the most mentally ill people in the building. There are 18 spaces in the ISU. There are 1,000 men. In ISU, you talk to a man who wants to show you something. He's so excited, walking past the fish tanks in the blessed, blessed quiet of the ISU. Some gates still, but locked open or locked closed. That clang of 1,000 doors is gone. He points out the window, the top of the cathedral tower. Just the very peak. It's beautiful. A tiny rectangle of blue sky and old stone, seen from a tiny cube of old blue sheets and new steel bars. Outside the ISU, for those who won't, don't, or can't work, every man is locked behind a door 23.5 hours a day. No free time to meet with the other men. The pandemic was the excuse the prison needed, supposed to have purposeful activity, but no one will fund it, so nothing happens. Behind a gate, 23.5 hours of every 24. The clang of the gates is constant. Could anyone in there have a healthy brain? Of 1,000 men, only the 18 most crazy get the care they need. They are living at His Majesty's pleasure, and it's his pleasure that they live like a creature in a cage. Part 2. The clang of the gates is constant. A reminder. You can't leave. You're trapped with a man you barely know in a room built for one. No curtain on the window, no walls round the toilet. Privacy is something other people get. Outside. Not you. Never before have you truly understood what they mean by the stench of humanity. The toilets reek, the bleach and antiseptic, the body odour of 1,000 men. If you want to leave your cell for more than half an hour a day, you have to get a job. There are many jobs, and they are not bad jobs. Menial, usually, to train you for the world outside, but the wage. The weekly wage is less than the officer makes in an hour. For an hour of watching you, keeping you safe, intervening in fights, trying to keep you alive, trying to keep you all alive. Some make light of it, pretend to be a friend. Some are kind and truly want to help. Some are cruel who took the job to push you around. Some are just here because a job's a job. In 1 hour, they make what you can earn in a week. If you want to get out of that cell, that's the wage you must accept. That's what they say you're worth. Otherwise, 23.5 hours behind a solid steel door. You're trapped, with a man you barely know, in a room built for one. You are living at His Majesty's pleasure, and it's his pleasure that you live like a creature in a cage. Part 3. You talk to a man through his solid steel door, trying to ask through the boom and the crash, what do you need? How can I help? You talk with a man who is very unwell. Is he high, drunk, ill, crazy? All of the above? Define crazy here. You can't do it. It's shorthand for can't be bothered to work out his problem because the officers aren't paid enough or given enough time to care. You aren't allowed to enter his cell, where you could be trapped, made hostage, hurt. But you can speak in a private room, unmonitored, if you choose, if you think it's safe. On paper, it's a horrible risk, a man so deep in delusion, they'll tell you he's a danger. But you see a man so scared that you are the only one he trusts. You, a total stranger, a volunteer. Everyone else, he says, is in their pay. He won't tell you their name. He's scared they will hurt you too. He wrote his fears on a piece of paper, hand-scrawled in pencil, a torn paper scrap hidden in his shoe, and he won't let you read it because he's so afraid. What if they hurt you too? What can you do? You can listen, you can care. You can be the person he needs for just a few minutes, someone he knows isn't here to hurt him. How he knows that, you will never know. Speaking in a room that's as close to quiet as you can find, the cacophony of man and metal still muffled, but still there. The clang of the gates is constant, never escaped, but muted. Muted enough to hear his words, his fears, his worst delusions. There's a hospital there, the healthcare wing, up in the prison, up on the hill, tiny 6 cells for the men too ill or disabled to manage the wings, for the 6 most ill or disabled. The men in healthcare have least complaints, fewest problems to tell you because they have nurses, kindly folks in blue scrubs who smile, who, if they hate this place, at least they hide it, but they are so often suffering the worst, the men in healthcare. You're told when you join, never go into a cell, not ever. But before you is a man who cannot stand, cannot rise from his chair, tears flowing down his face, and he can't make them stop. How can you not go to him? He can't remember what he did, why he was sentenced to this cell. He knows he did something bad, and he is so, so sorry. No one deserves to suffer like that man. He needed care before. He needed care outside. He couldn't get it, didn't get it, slipped through the spaces in the system till he slid to a stop. Here, he's finally got healthcare. Healthcare he's needed for decades. What is our society that a man must come to this? You tell him how sorry you are that he's ended here, that he's suffering so. What else to do? The sheer futility of being kind against a wall of political indifference. You do what you can. Tiny drops of care, vortex of apathy and neglect. Make one man's day just a little bit better. The clang of the gates is constant. They are living at His Majesty's pleasure, and it's his pleasure that they must be on their deathbed before he will pay for their care. He'll run horses and keep dogs. He'll pay for their well-being, their enrichment, their health. He'll pay for them to thrive. A horse's stall is bigger than a prison cell for 2 men. A prisoner is less than the meanest beast to him. They are living at His Majesty's pleasure, and it's his pleasure to treat them worse than a creature in a cage. Thank you. I am now going to move on to a piece called Can't Sleep. I wrote it to a beat user. I was being in a workshop with a beat poet called Jay Sandu. He provided this beat called My Story, and it's not actually going to be playing, but I wrote it to that beat, and I think you can hopefully hear it as I read it. The beat of my heart can't sleep, still awake, beating, beating, beating. Head full of demons, gremlins and creatures. They won't shut up. They chatter and gabble, and they hate. Fuck how they hate me. Hating, hating, hating. Try to breathe, try to breathe. Block them out. Don't hear them, don't hear them. Shut up the chatter. But the demons, they're breaking ranks in my head. Have to fight them back. Fighting, fighting, fighting. Remember the therapy. Remember the toolkit. Let it pass through and out, through and out. This too shall pass. Oh, won't it pass? Breathing, breathing, breathing. Breathe through the pain. Let the demons run. Let them have their fun. Let them run out of hate. Let them run. Keep on running. Out of my mind. Gone. Thank you. I now have a piece entitled Do Not Climb on the Rocks. This is a much more cheerful piece, and it relates to my disability. Do not climb on the rocks. The sign is bright red, but very far away. I couldn't possibly read it at this distance. And anyway, the rocks are calling. Can't madly scramble anymore, terrifying my mother as she watches from the beach. I have 2 sticks, though. Well, a walking stick and an umbrella. Slowly, creaking, I can clamber again. I stay near the rail at first, lets me pull my way along without worrying about my balance so much. But I get more adventurous. I have my stick and my umbrella. Shoes that grip and bend, feeling my way over the sharp peaks, the gentle slopes, the rough stone. The sea rushes under my feet, flowing between the rocks, salt water filling the gaps, spray flying through the air. I'm 3 years old, a cove in Ireland. 11, the Lyme Regis Cobb. 14, a Swiss river. Water rushing beneath me, white noise that blocks out the world, sturdy stone beneath me. And I climbed there, leaving the safe path and aiming for the highest peak. Today, I climbed the rocks, and I am mighty. Thank you. The next three are all about grief, and they're about the loss of my father specifically, which was a few years ago now. His first piece is entitled Touchstones. A battered old wax coat, not Berber brand, but like it. Green once, now faded so dark, worn through hundreds of blustery days. In the pocket, a piece of yellow plastic, obscurely shaped, a breech flag, from the days on the shooting range. We had dozens, littering your study and scattered in the bottom of every bag. They're gone now, the study, the bags, the chunks of yellow plastic. Just the one left. I cling onto it, the grubby yellow. I feel it and I can pretend I can still smell the powder in the air, the leather, the metal, the gun oil. I hold it and it's like holding your hand. Your hands were always so steady, controlled, precise. I envied you that with my dyspraxic clumsiness. When we danced, your hands held me safe and tight, spinning around the dance hall faster and faster. Until your knees gave out, until your hands shook, until all I have left is a piece of yellow plastic living in the pocket of a battered green coat. This next is entitled Remember, Remember, the 5th of November. Bonfire, Parliament, barbecue, cold. Dad, the coughing, the blood, the death rattle. They didn't tell me you were sedated. Didn't know you weren't suffering. Didn't know that you were drugged half asleep when I said goodbye. I don't like to remember sad anniversaries, don't note them or mark them. So it's just my bad luck that the day you died has the poem instructing me to remember, remember. And the final piece on that subject is a very short one entitled Slices of Lemon. Love is slicing lemons with shaking hands, knowing you will not live to see them used. Trays and trays of frozen lemon, so your wife may prepare for your funeral with her drinks cooled by lemon, sliced by her husband's hands. Thank you. I now have two more joyful pieces to close with. First is entitled Live Skies. There's a little desk at the back of the room, spread with computer controls I'm not allowed to touch. A notebook full of doodles from other staff, sitting bored through pre-recorded shows which take something fascinating, then sap all interest, the same 18 minutes over and over. Several pens, none of them with ink, and stacks of notes from seasons gone by. The seats aren't numbered, aren't allotted in advance. We tell them as they enter. Don't leave gaps. Sit next to a stranger. The seats will all be filled. Keep walking in. Keep walking in. Turn off your phones. Turn off your switches. We mention light pollution from the screens, and none of them get it, not straight away. But they shuffle in, mutter, take their seats. This isn't pre-recorded, this one. This is live skies. The house lights dim, and the sky grows bright, 1,000 stars projected onto a mighty dome. The hush falls. There's silence as they stare. You don't get skies like this in the city. Most of them have never seen more than a handful of stars. I don't get many more than that by my suburban home. These skies are shown from Kielder, the darkest skies and the brightest stars, the nebulae and the clusters and the planets, the thousands upon thousands of lights sparkling in every upward glance. The Milky Way, stars so many and so distant they appear as a cloud, a long translucent stripe painted across the night sky, a spiral arm of a galaxy. My microphone is on, my remote control in hand, and I captivate them. Not just the facts, this star is this one is that. That's a constellation, but that one isn't, actually. Did you know there's 88 official constellations? Any other pattern of stars is an asterism. Of all the things that all the governments in all the world could agree upon together, they agree upon the pictures we see in the sky. Can you make an asterism? Do you see a rabbit, a bear? I think it's a saucepan, to be honest. Whoever saw a bear in that shape, they had a heck of an imagination. I wish I could have known them. I tell of the seven sisters and how there are so many more than seven, but seven are all we poor mortals can see. How many sister stars are out there in that tiny cluster, beyond the reach of our scopes and our lenses? I tell them stories, I tell them histories, I tell of Cassiopeia chained to her throne, Andromeda and Cetus, the maiden and the monster. Thousands of years ago, people looked up, saw these shapes, told these stories. I tell them now, lowly, brightly, gently, dramatically. My voice rises and falls as I share with them the wonder of the skies. They gave me a microphone and a captive audience and a sky full of stars. I am a science explainer, and boy, can I explain. And this last little piece is about polyamorous joy. It is entitled Half Wakened by the Rising Sun. Half wakened by the rising sun, rays reaching through the window, reaching across a tangle of bodies, limbs, and hearts. Soft skin curled up and lain wide, hair spread on pillows, stretching out across the bed, finding a head, a hand, whose doesn't matter, also loved. Soon learning by feel whose shoulder, whose elbow, whose breast, a contented murmur is turning in sleep, a blissful smile of peace, the calm of companionship, settling down to sleep once more under the sun's golden rays, safe and happy and so very loved. Thank you very much.
Everybody feel free to unmute and cheer the fuck out of that. That was amazing.
That was stunning, Josie.
So
Wonderful.
that's how much I enjoyed it.
Thank you. That was amazing.
I'll take you off spotlight now, mate, and I'll stop the recording as well.
Such a full range.